I figured we'd celebrate Pride Month by having a gay conservative come on. I think it's appropriate for the month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, it is my honor to welcome a very fabulous and fearless guest. He is one of, if not the most dangerous person in politics and journalism. He's a New York Times best-selling author and one of the most censored men in the world. That's not an understatement. Our own President Barron said Penn State, quote, dodged a serious bullet, unquote, when this man's speaking stop here was canceled, sadly. But now he is at Penn State. He is here. Milo Yiannopoulos, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Now, the one thing I'm just going to start off with is because I've been following you for quite a long time. I've always been a fan of yours, but how did you go from the guy who broke Gamergate to being banned from literal continents that you just can't even walk on now?
Well, you'll get some Republican, conservative, libertarian commentators who like to associate themselves with the strong. So some male commentators are always banging on about the military. Now, I bow to nobody in my respect and reverence and affection for veterans, the military, and all the rest of it. But there's a degree of theatricality about all the genuflection sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel the need to constantly ally myself with the strongest people I can think of. I like to stand up for the underdogs. I like to stick up for people who don't have the voice or the courage or the confidence or whatever to do it for themselves. Because to my mind, proper embodiment of the heroic masculine virtues, if you like, is the strong should protect the weak. And I got involved in this Gamergate thing, which was basically, you know, a bunch of nerds, and I am a nerd. I'm a complete dork myself. You know? I fall asleep to Star Trek Voyager. I don't care who knows about it. These guys were being pummeled to death by feminist crazies who were claiming that video games, of all hobbies, and if you know any gamers, not just like casual people who play like the NBA games or whatever, but actual real hardcore gamers, they're not only like mostly kind of probably left wing, but they're also like the nicest, sweetest, most accommodating, most lovely people, because they're all like kind of, you know, they're all basically it's a bunch of misfits, and I love them because I'm a misfit. So as they were getting pummeled to death by these feminists, by these progressive journalists who were saying that you know, straight white male is the easiest difficulty setting, importing all this social justice garbage from gender studies and race studies and all the rest of it into the hobby, and no one else was telling the other side of this story. The press, as we now know, is in its infinite dishonesty, is able to characterize, well, just does the most appalling things to people. So you had this kind of consumer uprising against politicized coverage, and it was the first kind of revolt against journalism, without which the later kind of journalism hatred from the Trump voters would not have been possible. In fact, I don't think Trump would have been possible without this video game thing. Which was being mischaracterized by the press as a sort of as an uprising of misogyny and racism, and I just could not believe the degree of dishonesty and disingenuousness from these journalists, and I felt like I should do something about it, and I did.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed in your journalism is that if there's anything I will like say is the best way to describe it, it's authentic. You're not afraid, as we saw in your recent article on Dangerous.com, to call out Kaylan Robertson, to call out these people that seem like they're allies, or that, you know, nobody else is saying what's needed to be said, but you still are willing to say it.
Well, I do the reporting nobody else wants to, and I say the things that nobody else dares to, and I go for the people that everyone else is scared of. And sometimes, you know, that can have negative consequences for me, but at this point, I don't care too much. I'm not too worried about it. I just want
what do you have to lose now?
You're playing with house money.
No, exactly. Look, I like to stick up for the underdog. Like I said, that's what I've always cared about the most. That's what I've always been motivated by in my life. Yeah. And that is always going to be unpopular with people. You've got people on your own side who are like, you know, why are you just wasting your time on these losers? Well, actually, in the case of the video game thing, it's like, the video game industry is actually bigger than Hollywood. It is a double-digit billion-dollar business, right? You know, it is colossal, and it's growing at this extraordinary rate. It is going to be the primary entertainment medium for every generation after ours, and not a single conservative journalist knows anything about it except me. None of them. And that's so shocking and so stupid and so short-sighted. This is not just a bunch of losers. This is the future of our entertainment industry and the future of our creative wing of our civilization. And to some degree, the Trump election itself is an election of losers, right? It's the losers from globalization. It's the people who got left behind. It's the people whose industries don't exist anymore, who are just saying, you know what, actually, maybe we could slow this down. Maybe look after the people we have in this country before we import a bunch more. You know, in a way, the Trump election is the kind of it's the misfit rebellion, and that's very much in tune with how I see the world. And I guess maybe I don't know, the gay lobby and public homosexuals these days, incredibly boring, one-note communist losers. But I always thought being gay was about being dissident and mischievous and pushing the envelope and I've spoken in interviews at length about this, so I won't bore you with it now. But it just felt like a natural affinity to me, for me to stick up for the people that nobody else wanted to.
Yeah, so I was a very big fan of your work over there as well. Like I've been a gamer all my life, and when I saw that, and like really what brought me into it was Mr. Medicare, so I guess it would have been Internet Aristocrat at the time. His
right
great series on that, but. Now, kind of changing gears back to the introduction. I know my friend mentioned that you were banned from Penn State. Or like you were originally supposed to go to a Penn State campus tour, but it was canceled. Now, do you feel that the cancellation was sabotaged by outside forces or an inside job within the people who were supposed to set it up?
I mean, I can't speak to that. I know that. Obviously, a lot of this happens through booking agents, and so there's a lot of. I'm several degrees removed from some of the negotiations and some of what happens in a lot of these cases. But I will tell you that, you know, a lot of good is done by campus organizations like Turning Point, but they don't do a very good job. I mean, look, there isn't a Turning Point chapter president. Maybe there's 4 who don't like me. They're all massive rabid Milo fans. All the Turning Point members love me, but have they ever invited me to do anything? No. And this is because I think that the leadership is timid, and I do inevitably, obviously, of course, hear about sabotages that come from YAF and YAL. I mean, Young America's Foundation is completely run by, it is effectively a wing of the Daily Wire at this point.
I second that.
Yeah,
from experience.
It's fine. That's one strand of conservatism, but it isn't even it isn't the strand of conservatism that's in the White House.
Yep.
It isn't the strand of conservatism that is the most popular, most persuasive. It isn't the strand of conservatism that's the most fun. It isn't really. It is yesterday's conservatism. It is a form of conservatism that is dying. That is basically dead. That is gone. It does not cohere whatsoever with the base, with the actual Republican voters in America at all. The only thing it coheres with is a couple of greedy, self-interested, you-know-whats in Washington, D.C. And it's never interested me very much. As far as the individual politics go, I have observed remarkable wars inside, college Republican groups.
Oh, we've had that here.
Oh, yeah. It's bad.
Right.
They didn't support Trump here.
Who want to be who are scared about not being invited to the right drinks parties when they get to Washington D.C. after they graduate because they were associated with somebody from from the Trump side of the fence or whatever. And I'm just thinking, well, okay, fine, I get it. I get the self-interest. That's fine. But the extent to which they will try to sabotage and savage and badmouth and all the rest of it is really they tend to be, of the two sides, the slippery, slimy, underhand, mean, vindictive. I'm trying to keep my language clean. I know it's a family show.
I appreciate it.
I can't use any of the nouns that I was building up to.
We don't want to get banned again on here. So thank you.
No, I know. Everywhere I go, I'm censored. No, I can't. I can't use any of the words I want to, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah.
They do tend to be the more underhanded and slippery. Why? Because just like the left, they can't win in a fair fight. They can't win on the merits. They can't put it to a vote because they'd lose. So they do this nasty kind of quiet sabotage. And I get it. Fine. That's their thing. They can't win on the open playing field, so they leverage their influence and slipperiness instead. But ultimately, this is a movement that is dying, that is dead. I have had a lot of trouble getting booked on campuses because of the sort of internal sabotage you're alluding to. I honestly, I can't help you in your campus war by giving you a definitive answer in this particular case. I'm very sorry to tell you. I would love to help, but I can't give you any definitive evidence. But I'm happy to look for it after the show, and we can talk about that perhaps another occasion. But I do know it happens a lot.
That's great. Thank you. And I understand completely. As a Turning Point president, and I would love to have you come here. I will say, for the longest time, it was hard to contact you until you opened up Telegram, which I was glad you did.
Well, I was retired, darling. I basically finished. I was, because I made millions of dollars on my book, and I was very happy. I got married. I've been in love. I've been living in New Jersey. It's been all very good. And then, of course, they ban this, they ban that. They shut down I can't even sell T-shirts anymore. So I've been forced out of retirement by two things, really. The first one is I need to make some money again, because I thought I'd be able to just live off my residuals forever, but no. And the second thing is I realized that actually my work on Earth is not yet done. I thought, I was one of the 7 people who put a president in office. I've achieved more than 99.9% of people ever will, and 99.9997% of journalists ever will. As an activist, as a journalist, as a media figure, I have accomplished so much at such a young age. I can die happy. Like I have nailed it. In just 5 years, I was a property developer 6 years ago, and just one day I just woke up and said, I'm going to do some journalism. And I absolutely smashed it. And I thought, I'm good, I'm happy. But I have been forced back out of retirement. So I'm glad to be in touch with you. And if you do want to set up, if you do want to attempt another speech, your president saying he dodged a bullet just makes me want to come. Just makes me come to the speech. Just makes me want to excuse me, I'm sorry. Makes me want to set up a speech tomorrow. So I think we should talk about that too.
Fabulous. I'm glad to hear that. I knew you would say that, but that's what we love to hear, because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of us in this room, we're not afraid to cause trouble here in the right corners.
Well, let's do it. Now look, my model isn't like other people. So when I won't even speak his name, but when the Daily Wire tendency exerts its influence, what they do is they'll just go to donors and they'll get like $25 or $30,000 in their back pocket, show up, read a speech they've given a million times before, do a couple of questions and leave. I don't do it like that. I prefer to take a cut of ticket sales, and you have to be quite a big star to be able to do that, because it's so much riskier. But I think it's fairer. I think it's better. It means you don't need any upfront money. And it also means that when I leave the Turning Point chapter or the College Republicans or whatever it is richer than when I found them, rather than $25K out of pocket. So this is how I much prefer to do it versus the people who are literally just in it for the shekels. So I'll be happy to do that model with you if you'd like to do that. It sounds like fun. Let's get it. I'm out of retirement now, so let's get back to business.
Love it.
All right. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about the VOD adpocalypse.
Yeah, that's a big word.
Yeah, that's a real big word.
The what?
So the Vox adpocalypse. Yeah, that's what they were trying to say.
Yes, sorry, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we had Sticks, Hex, and Hammer on, and it was a pretty good conversation. And like while we were having the conversation, I saw that you were pushing for a ban Crowder.
Of course.
My question is, will banning Crowder be enough for change?
No, but it's a start.
Okay.
Look, things occur to me that feel completely obvious, that to everybody else are just mystifying and confusing. And I always seem to be like 4 or 5 years ahead of everybody else. The stuff that I hear on Fox News is like, yeah, I was saying that in 2015. Oh my God, I'm bored. So it seems completely obvious to me that the only way for us to forge a new future for conservative media, the conservative media ecosystem is in tatters, it's in ruins. The only way for us to forge a new future based on the talent and popularity of stars, and not on whether they can call Texan billionaires and get told what to say and buy their way into popularity, not mentioning any names. Whether people actually like and want to listen to and say something different from one week to the next, rather than just repeating the same talking points that they've been paid to say. I think that I think we need
down
the conservative ecosystem, the media ecosystem in ruins. We need a Götterdämmerung. We need a Ragnarok from which the valiant will rise again. Look, Gavin McInnes, Paul Joseph Watson, Milo Yiannopoulos, Laura Loomer. Do you want to be on that side? Or do you want to be on the other side? I know which side I would pick. and look, we all realize now that accelerationism is the way to go. The way to win this is we got to get Crowder, we got to get Rubin, we got to get Rogan, we got to get Little Benji, we got to get all of slime balls who did nothing to help us, nothing to stand up against the censorship. And in Winston Churchill's famous phrase, was it a pacifist or an appeaser is a guy who feeds the crocodile hoping he'll get eaten last. Well, now they're just starting to realize that they might be up next. They might get gobbled. And I just want that future here now, because it is only from the ruins that the base will be angry enough, and the donors will have the veil lifted from their eyes and realize, oh no, you can't just say goodbye to Milo and Gavin, and because it's not going to stop there. It's not going to stop there. They don't even like most people on the left. I mean, when Berkeley burnt down in February 2017, when I spoke there, the piece of the most revealing piece of graffiti on the wall above a smashed Wells Fargo ATM was the anarchist A, the A with a circle around it, and the words, "Democrats, you're next." These people do not realize that the forces that are trying to uproot and dissolve the institutions of our civilization they won't even stop with the Republicans, let alone stopping with Milo Yiannopoulos. So, look, the people on our own side who think, oh, well, if I just keep my nose clean and if I write Milo is execrable, it's the word no one can say. No one can say the word execrable, because your mouth wants to say execrable. No one. I don't even know what it means. Nobody knows what it means. But he puts this in his little short man with the sister nudes. Puts it in his introduction to his book and says, and this is the most appalling, disgusting, disreputable, horrendous lie. Says in the introduction to his book that I presented ethno-nationalism as a valid alternative to political correctness. I mean, how dare you? How dare you? And people wonder why I'm hung up on what an evil little dwarf he is. How dare you? This is unacceptable, and these people are going to fall next. And the problem for them is, out of the ashes, who is going to rise fastest and furthest? The people who actually have talent. Yeah. And so it's my hope that, the Gavins, the Rogers, the Lauras, the Paul Joseph Watson, the Sargon of Akkad, and yes, dare I say it, the Milo Yiannopoulos, we will be the ones who will be able to reclaim our rightful thrones. But it can only happen, and I say this not out of avarice or rapaciousness or greed or lust for fame or whatever, because I was happily retired, as I told you at the beginning of this conversation. I was perfectly happy never to do anything again. But because it's what America needs, because it's the only way that we beat the bad guys. And for me, as things currently stand, the big enemy that is facing the conservative movement, facing the Trump movement, facing the populist nationalist revolution on two continents, the biggest enemy that it has is establishment Republicans. And these are the people who are, sabotaging from, other wings of the conservative movement, whether they're college Republicans or whatever it is. These are the real enemies. And those are the ones, that's why people are always, going on, attacking your own side or whatever it is, right? It's because it's called cleaning house. Who wants to fight alongside people who are passing on private information and travel itineraries to Antifa-linked journalists? Nobody. And nobody else is going to tell these stories because everyone else is so terrified and cowardly and useless. So I'll do it. But you need me. Trust me, you need me. I might be annoying and obnoxious and foul-mouthed and difficult to explain to your parents and an embarrassment most of the time, but you need me. So that's why I'm very much pro this accelerationism and ban Crowder. Owen Schroyer from InfoWars yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Trying to get him banned because I posted on Telegram. You can find me on Telegram. It's at Milo Official on Telegram. Yep. You can find me there. I spent most of the day yesterday trying to get Owen banned, in addition to mocking his ridiculous beard, which was like Wildor.
I was going to say, the only reason I think he should be banned is because of that beard.
Oh, no, wait, no, it's enough. It's honestly enough. Yeah. I mean, vegans, cyclists, and Owen Schroy's beard first over the wall. What
about feminists?
Well, look, I believe that women can be redeemed. I think women only become feminists because they're handed a victimhood script, and I don't want to. I don't want to start exterminating half the female population. I would much rather reform them. But there are people who are beyond redemption, cyclists especially.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Those are the people that just need to go. So look, with Owen yesterday. Owen's a very good friend, and I'm trying to get him banned. My advice to you, if you're listening, if you care at all about the free speech agenda, if you care at all about controlling immigration, if you care about any of this stuff, one piece of advice for you is just pick your 5 favorite conservative media figures and start reporting them for hate speech to every social network they're on. You are doing, no, honestly, I'm not kidding. You're doing us all a favor. And I know it sounds absurd and ridiculous and insane, but it is true. And you will be helping them and us and yourself. Please start reporting your favorite conservative figures for hate speech to Twitter, to Facebook, to YouTube, whoever you can think of, because they've all got to get nuked if we're going to claw back any hope of a healthy, strong, powerful, and effective conservative media ecosystem. Because at the moment, it is not looking good. It's not even looking good for the next election, because all of Trump's most persuasive, powerful, effective supporters, they're all gone.
Well,
he's done nothing to save them.
Yeah, we've been following down the show a long time, so we're definitely hoping change happens too. We're going to ask one quick question, because I don't want to hold you too long. I know you're a very busy man. And then
I am now, and this is thanks to people like you trying to drag me out of a blissful retirement.
Well, that's Phil's fault here. He just started DMing you when you advertise your username in Telegram.
Go ahead. Make me the easy target. Go ahead, please.
Fine. Well, I've only got myself to blame. I get it. Fine. But no, thank you for being so kind as to have me. What was your last question?
Yes, Alex, you got that last question?
Yeah. So I did see your Kyle Lon Robertson article, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. However, one thing kind of stuck out to me, because I know a few people like this, and it's really kind of scary. Like, how many sexual ghostwriters and fake trads do you think there are within the upper echelons of the conservative?
Well, I think that even notwithstanding the FCC regulations to which this show is subject, I believe that I'm still allowed to say trad thought. And
we had a discussion on that.
Thoughts and ideas.
Did you? Because it's an abbreviation of something you might not be able to say.
Oh, there you go.
It's on the line. I understand, but you can always say he's British. He didn't understand. Now, in this little world of pretty girls advocating for traditional lifestyles, I know most of them, and I don't know any of them who live the values they preach. I don't know any of them who practice what they preach. In fact, I happen to know for a fact almost all of them do the exact opposite, hurling themselves around various much more talented men in order to basically outsource the hard work to someone else. I don't know, if you're a writer like me, you can produce an essay. So if you go to dangerous.com, the first story up there at the moment is I don't even know if I can read the headline now on this show, but go find it. It's just at dangerous.com. It's the first story there. It's a story about how these two video makers were ripping off, ripping off and endangering a bunch of us. And one of their employers, Lawrence Southern, probably knew about all, if not most of it, and did nothing to warn anyone and laughed along with it and all the rest of it. I'm sorry, I've completely lost my thread.
That's okay.
Well, real quick, kind of like a little aside.
Oh no, I remember what I was going to say. Sorry, I remember what I was going to say. These women want to outsource the hard work. If you go and read that essay and it's about 10,000 words or something, most people would have to spend about 4 months writing something like that. I can do it in 2 weeks because I'm really good at my job. But it's a very, very, it's a combination of natural talent and hard learned skill. I've been doing it for years now. To write a really good speech takes work, takes grit and determination and knowledge and hard work and all kinds of skills. And these girls want to go around and sort of throw their nether regions at men to do all the hard work for them. So all they have to do is show up and read someone else's words looking cute and get all the attention and applause. Ironically, the words they're reading are about saving yourself for marriage and not being not being a woman of ill repute, let's say, and all the rest of it. So, no, I happen to know most of these people. To answer your question, personally, I happen to know most of them personally, if not professionally, and almost without exception, they are hypocrites of the absolute highest order. So I would encourage you very strongly away from following people who quite clearly are in it for the attention, and instead look at more mercurial and contradictory and fascinating and interesting figures. I think Roger Stone he's a very close friend of mine. He's fascinating. I think Alex Jones is fascinating. I think I fall into this category because very often what we have to say, you kind of like, even with people you like, you end up having your opinion of somebody shaped by headlines. And you know, if enough people say, "Oh, Milo's insubstantial. He's got nothing really to say. He's just a troll. He's just a trickster figure." Well, if you actually listen to many of my college talks or read any of my books, you realize that this is nonsense, right? You realize that this is insane. You realize that this is nonsense. And so just pay close attention to primary sources. Go, and if somebody's being roundly bad by people you know are bad dudes, like the Daily Wire writers, there's a reasonable chance they're probably okay. And go and read what they say about themselves and what they say about their beliefs, and stop believing other people. And that way you can avoid a lot of the attention seekers and find people who. And sometimes those thinkers are edgy. Well, I mean, they will educate you. I mean, there's a guy called Steve Saylor who blogs to a couple of different places, and sometimes his content, I find it makes me sometimes very uncomfortable. He gets quite close to the line on race stuff, which I'm not really into at all. And yet other things he says and draws attention to are fascinating, and no one else covers things quite like he does. I think I probably fall in the same category, not in terms of edgy race stuff, but just in sort of like my theatrics can sometimes be difficult to defend. And if it all makes sense in the context of the performance or of social media, but then you get hauled into like the president's office and someone reads out something I've said and said, "This is the guy you want to bring," It can be quite difficult to defend, but you've got to. And for every thing that they're going to bring out, you should bring out something. So yeah, well, you know what? The guy's a New York Times best-selling author. He sold 250,000 copies of his book. Most influential conservative thinkers, whether you like him or not, of his generation. Yeah, you damn skippy, we're getting him in. So that's what I would encourage you to do, to avoid these avoid these pretty girls with nothing to say who are really just speaking other men's words, and look for more interesting iconoclastic figures. And you can even find them on the left. I mean, look at Camille. Is a feminist, right? Fascinating, brilliant, interesting. Don't agree with her on everything, but much of what she says is brilliant and is at least thought-provoking. There are interesting people everywhere you look, so don't take the easy option and just pick the hot girl. Look a little harder and find people who actually have something to say.
Now, do you think there was more than a purely business relationship between like Stefan and Southern? Like to like I preface that, I've been, like with Southern, I loved what she did with South Africa and the Borderless documentary, but after reading your like article on that, it kind of really woke me up to what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I have no evidence one way or the other. I have my own private suspicions about it. And I'm going to keep them to myself, only because I have no evidence whatsoever, and I don't want to be mischaracterized as spreading rumors about something that I don't have any real cause to believe, because I think it would be irresponsible. I don't know is the answer, and I don't have any evidence either way. You can draw your own conclusions about whether somebody who is habitually exchanging, work for favors would not do it with somebody she spends so much time with. That's you can speculate as you like. I haven't seen any evidence of it. He's obviously not willing to broach that subject at all with anyone. And to be honest with you, he was not a feature in my reporting. He wasn't really relevant to the story anyway. He was not a part of it at any point. He isn't in any of the leaked emails I have. He just doesn't really appear in the story, to be honest. So I don't know the answer to that. To be truthful, I would be surprised if that was something that happened often or ongoing. It doesn't. I know all these personally. This is why doing what I do is so dangerous and so outrageous, because every time I publish an article, I lose a friend and create another feud that I don't even know about, you know? So I don't know the answer to that. I suspect that if it ever... I just sort of telegraph this by saying it is pure speculation. I suspect if it ever did happen once or twice, I don't think it was an ongoing thing, and I doubt whether he's the kind of guy to exchange work for favors. I think he probably did it. He probably did it just to orbit her, if you like. I think Stefan's probably the kind of guy who would have helped her out without even getting anything in return, just for the mission and because he liked her and because she was pretty. I would guess, but I don't know.
Very, very, very absolute last question I'm going to ask, and it's a serious one. I want to end on a serious note. How short is Ben Shapiro? So short. It's like the short. No, honestly, you know, if you know when you see those little people, you know, like I will tell you just because then I really do have to go. Yeah, no problem.
Peter Dinklage looks down on him.
Wow. Well, will you guys ever see eye to eye on things? Just wondering.
Yeah. Well, oh man, that I couldn't have had a better answer to end on. But normally I'd ask our guests like where I can find people like you on. But for you, I'm gonna have to ask: is there anywhere we can find you?
Telegram is look. If any of you are remembering the glory days of Twitter when I was ruling the platform,
and Leslie Jones,
that brief bright arc of brilliance on Twitter, I have to say, really getting into Telegram and using it much the same as I did before, except now I'm even smarter and even funnier and even more wicked and ruthless and horrendous. So I would go to Telegram. If you don't know what it is, just look up Telegram, like, you know, old school Telegram. It's an app. You can get it in the browser, and my channel is Milo Official with no spaces or punctuation, just Milo Official. So just search for Milo Official, you'll find me. I just started, and I've got about 20,000 subscribers so far.
Wow!
This is going to be my primary platform for news and jokes and all the rest of it, and everything else. I'm trying to practice what I preach. I don't like people wasting all their energy on social media and wasting all their good stuff on tweets and posts and all the rest of it. I'm trying to focus my work on actually producing content, which means that moving forward, a lot of my stuff is going to be books. So you can always go to Amazon. I wrote a book recently, especially little ones, just little cheap things that you can read quickly that are just fun. So I did a long essay, a bit like the essay I did about those gay video producers. I did another one longer on medieval studies, on social justice warriors in medieval studies. Which is
we know somebody in medieval studies.
Yeah, we've got a story of somebody like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one later.
Tell me about it after. Maybe I'll add it to the essay.
Yeah.
So there's medieval studies, which is the most unlikely, hilarious place for social justice warriors to start their entryism, but they are. So I've got an essay called Middle Rages, which is up, and it's Amazon pricing is always a mystery, but the paperback is like $6.95 at the moment. So go get that. I wrote a book, How to Be Poor, and my new one, I'm currently concocting, putting together now a little series. I'm going to call it my 12 rules. I'm going to do 12 books, how to be white, how to be black, how to be gay, how to be straight, how to be a woman, how to be disabled. I'm currently writing the next one in the series after How to Be Poor.
You're an expert in all those things?
What?
I said you're an expert in all those things?
I'm an expert in everything. But I'm going to... Look, it's this silly idea that if you're not X, then you can't write or speak about X. This is just social justice garbage. Actually, diversity departments should be staffed exclusively by rich straight white men because they don't have skin in the game. You know, they're disinterested.
That's a good point.
That's why
That's a really good
should all
point.
be rich straight white men because they're not vulnerable to the inevitable biases that come with being part of these minority groups. Anyway, this is a conversation for another day. But from my position as a well-educated, wealthy white man, I am communicating my wisdom to various different minority groups because I think blacks in America are getting it wrong. They're doing black wrong, and I think gays are doing gay wrong. They're gaying wrong.
Word of the day.
Well,
Show them
gang.
the way.
Now, look, there's lots of homosexuals that are gaying wrong. There are women who are womaning wrong, and I'm going to set them all straight. As it were.
I see
This is
you
a
there.
12-part series. Like I said, I'm going to call it my 12 Rules for Life. And it's my 12-part series aimed at all these different various minority groups, helping them to see the error of their ways, leading them away from this and away from this hateful nonsense that they've been doing. And so I am the Grand Marshal for the Straight Pride Parade in Boston
Yeah.
on August
Yeah.
31st.
Congrats.
So the next installment of the how-to series is going to be How to Be Straight, and that's going to be out in about a month. So you'll be able to find that on Amazon in about a month, and I'll of course be talking about it and posting about it and joking about it on Telegram.
Great stuff. And like he said before, you can follow him on Telegram at t.me/MiloOfficial, or like he said, just search Milo Official. Be the one with a lot of subscribers, so definitely join that. Thank you so much, Milo, for coming on. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on here. It was an
You are
absolute
welcome.
pleasure.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and follow up with me about the various things we've been talking. Because there's things I can tell you privately that I can't tell you. Thank you so much, guys. God
Thank
bless.
you.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you very much. Take care.
My pleasure.
Take care. Bye bye.